My. Even more so than usual, this was a tight vote in the Fancast comments for last week to choose this week's Fancast, guys. It was rough. There were multiple votes for, I think, every option. So thank you guys so much for that. And fortunately, before we get going this week, we've got another short list that you can vote on for which of these you want to see on next Sunday's Fancast. So do you guys want to see a Ben 10 Fancast, a Danny Phantom Fancast, a PJ Masks Fancast, a Harry Potter Fancast, or a 101 Dalmatians Fancast? Let me know in the comments, and let's get on with today's Fancast. So, Bambi sucks. I'm just going to put that out there. I'm going to put it right out there, guys. I like Snow White. I like Pinocchio. I like, I think, pretty much every Disney film from the very beginning, from around that time, you know? Obviously, you get to the stage where they started doing Melody Time, you know, Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, Three Caballeros, Saludos Amigos. There were a lot of random bitty ones there that you wouldn't even recognize the names of today. Fun and Fancy Free. But of the main ones that are still recognized well from back then, Bambi is the one that I least like, because it sucks. Sure, mom dying and all. Ooh, it's a whole thing. It's a huge pop culture moment. Bambi's mom dying. The rest of the film, no, it's bad. It's a bad film. I don't like it. But I'm sure that if they redid it on Disney Plus, with a nice cast, some new, nice, fun ideas, they could make something interesting out of it. More interesting. Maybe not great, but more interesting than the original film is to me. I hate it. So, Bambi. Bambi's, you gotta love Bambi, you know. He starts out as this pretty quiet, you know, silent, not talkative. Those all mean the same thing. He's sheltered very much by his mother. And I feel like there is a message in there about his mother being somewhat overprotective, and then his father, when he's in his care after his mother dies, he raised him differently, and that's why he's a lot more talkative, you know, he's a lot more outgoing when we see him next, after having been raised the rest of his youth by his father. I want to see, firstly, Owen Atlas do the young Bambi. There's not a lot of talking to it, but Owen Atlas was really, really funny in Little Evil. He did a really good job there, and he wasn't hugely talkative. And obviously, you know, body language and movement aren't really going to be helpful when you're playing a deer. But I still think that he'll be able to figure out how to do a lot with a few words. And he is still quite young. He's not... I mean, he was very young when he did that. He was maybe 8 or 9, I think. So, he's still young enough to do that. I haven't seen him in much else, so I'm hoping he is generally good when he actually has to do more talking, but I don't know. Anyway, for the grown-up Bambi then, and... It's an interesting one to try and cast. I'm going to cast Chris Pine. I like casting Chris Pine in animated lead male roles, because he has an incredibly sexy voice. So, you know, you look at Rise of the Guardians, Jack Frost, woot doggy, you know, it works well. And as much as I don't want to, you know, release the furries and after Bambi, that's probably going to happen no matter who you cast realistically with someone in this film. So we'll just have to accept it. And Chris Pine as a big kingly figure, you know, because that's what Bambi is. He's fallen in love with Feline when he's older, and he's trying to learn to be a prince of the forest, you know, be like his grand stallion of a father. So I think it's important that you get somebody who can bring his voice up to that level where he's authoritative now. Make it so, you know. So I think that's our two sides of Bambi. Next, Thumper. Much more so for Thumper, I think of him as the comic relief of the trio, of the main trio of guys. And when he's young, that leaves me with the simple choice, I think, of getting mad at Zaro, because he works for that. Thumper is this kind of, well, he's a rabbit. He's hyperactive, especially as a child, and he's nice, but at the same time he's too much. he's a little too much to actually be around. Getting mad at Zaro feels like he'd do a good job of making that even funnier, making that a really comical thing that he's just, whoa, right in Bambi's face, like, as soon as he's born, basically. So I'd like to see that. And then when he grows up, I think it'd be really interesting to see Ben Schwartz do grown-up Thumper. Because he's also very good for that kind of right-in-your-face, being like, whoa, too much, this character's a bit much, kind of comedy. And I feel like grown-up Thumper could have some similar characteristics to Sonic. But also, he'd also be very funny at himself falling in love. You know, all of that aspect of it is a big aspect of it for all three of the guys once they grow up. And I think he'd play that off very well. He'd be really, really funny at that. Next, and finally of those three, Flower. Flower is... yeah, he's something. Again, not very talkative when they're little. More talkative, but still the least talkative of all three when they're grown up, I think. When they're young, he's very innocent. I think it'd be interesting to play him off smart. Why not smart? You know, just give him something else. Just give Flower something. He's just kind of also there. Bambi and Thumper have characters, and Flower's, he exists. I think he could be like a really smart kind of kid who grows up into really smart, you know, even hypochondriac, really scared of everything, of catching disease, of whatever kind of adult. I'd like to see Paul McKell-Williams play that as a child, as young Flower. He's just really good at the lead in Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous on Netflix. And he's very much this slightly nerdier, but also takes charge character, which is an interesting blend, and I think he'd be good at it. I think he'd just do the role well, being quiet and then kind of learning to come out of his shell a bit more, all of that. And then when he grows up, I'd like to see Daveed Diggs play him. I love Daveed Diggs. I think he's great. Voice roles, anything. The man can do it all. He's fantastic. So no matter what character they do or don't give to Flower, he will make something of it. It doesn't matter what it is. Somehow, Daveed Diggs will make something of it. I just know this. I just know he will do it. Next. Moving on, the other characters around. I don't think it's worth casting young Feline, but adult Feline. She's got to fall in love with Bambi, you know. She's got to come off as... It'd be ideal if she, you know, didn't... The girls, to be fair, kind of are chasing the guys, you know, making it feel like the guys are powerless too. They must fall for them. And it is... You can't do a thing where she's, like, necessarily playing hard to get or being a strong, independent female character, because all the animals... As soon as they grow up, the point of the film kind of is that they immediately want to mate. But I want to cast Amanda Seyfried as Feline. I love Amanda Seyfried, and more recently seeing her in things like Scoob, despite them having changed the voice cast for Scoob. Oh. I thought she did a really good Daphne, and I was surprised by how much I enjoyed her as a voice actor. And I'd really like to see her try this. I think... it's difficult to say how they would handle the women in this so that it doesn't feel like they are immediately, and their only purpose is to fall for the guys. You'd maybe want to flesh out their characters a bit more. Feline and I don't even know the names. I don't even know if they were given names. The rabbit and the skunk who fall in love with Thumper and Flower. But... you might want to flesh out their characters a little bit more, give them a little bit more to do. Amanda Seyfried to be good at whatever you want her to be, pretty much. Next. Friend Owl is an important role. Kind of. He exists. You know, he's also there. And I'd like to see Forrest Whitaker play Frandile. If you don't just think Forrest Whitaker is a wise old oil, nailed it, then I don't know what else to say about that. He just should do it. He would be great. You know, I can't even really remember what they want Frandile doing most of the time. They want to change most of these characters anyway. Honestly, guys, in a live action update, they want to change things up a bit. You know, there's just a lot of fixing needs done. But Forrest Whitaker, wise old oil, yes, it feels correct. Next, Bambi's mother. Yeah, Bambi's mother needs to be really nice. You know, really kind motherly figure. Also I do feel like his mother is somewhat overprotective. It's not an insane amount, but she's quite overprotective. I'm going to cast Emily Blunt. I feel like her voice is great as a slightly strict mother kind of role. She's reached that age now where she can start playing mother roles. Absolutely. She has her own kids. It's all fine. And I think she'd do that really well. I think she'd just be really good at being unsure about Bambi, going out and about, and then the tense sequence where she gets killed, all of that. Spoilers, by the way. It's a 90-year-old film or something, right? So I think she'd be really good at that. I think it's, as much as I don't want to go right out there and say it, I definitely have cast a lot of people here who are very good at singing. And if you just wanted to make, you know, you don't have to have the animals actually mouths moving while they're singing, but have sequences like you could just, you know, you could just have songs that the actors are singing playing in the background during sequence. Definitely, you know, it's an option. It's an option to make the film somewhat better. Drip, drip, drop, little April showers does not make a musical. Next, finally, Bambi's father, the king of the foot, prince of the foot, whatever, authoritative guy. Don't know how he chose to raise Bambi. We don't really see much of it, but he was, you know, more strict, more outgoing with him than Bambi's mother would have been. He's also just got this very regal kind of nature to him in general. I'd like to see Bryan Cranston play him. Firstly, because I think it'll be easier, be easy for Bryan Cranston to do flashback, because his voice, as much as he can sound his age, he's also very good and makes it very easy sounding younger than he is. And if you want to do flashbacks or something, you need to do something here, because the film's very short. You need to do something. So I'm just saying, there's a lot of options for how you could stretch this out to an actual feature-length film length, you know? But also, Bryan Cranston just seems like the kind of person that you could easily cast as like a president or a politician or someone very, just regal. And that's all for this fan cast, guys. Do make sure you vote down there in the comments for which one you want to see next Sunday. There'll be another one midweek, but that you don't get to vote on that. If you're a member, join button down there. You can check that vote. Anyway, subscribe. Yeah, do it.